Okay, so what if I told you that our biggest, most heated political debates aren't really about facts at all? What if they're about something much, much deeper? Today, we're going to dive into the hidden world of our moral psychology to figure out why our political divides feel so incredibly personal. You know that feeling, right? You get into an argument about politics, and pretty soon it feels like you're not just disagreeing about policy, you're disagreeing about basic right and wrong. It gets emotional, it gets intense, like the other person isn't just mistaken, they're morally failing. Well, here's the thing, it feels that way because, in a very real sense, they are moral battles. The research is pretty clear on this. When our beliefs are tied to our morality, they become fused with our deepest gut feelings. Our political stances aren't just influenced by our morals. A lot of the time, they're a direct extension of them. So, to really get our heads around this, we first need to draw a really clear line between two things: our moral attitudes and our political attitudes. They're connected, for sure, but they operate in different arenas. Here's a simple way to think about it: your moral attitudes are like your personal compass. They guide your own actions, your own sense of right and wrong. But your political attitudes, that's when you try to use that compass to draw a map for the entire country. It's about how we think society should be run and how power should be used. One is about personal integrity, the other is about public policy. And this brings us to a really game-changing idea that helps explain all this. It's called moral foundations theory. And the best way to understand it is to think of our morality not as one single thing, but more like a set of taste buds we're all born with. So the theory is basically this: our minds have evolved to care about a few key moral issues, just like our tongues evolved to taste sweet, sour, salty, and so on. These foundations are universal. Everybody has them. But, and this is the real kicker, different cultures and especially different political groups learn to build their entire worldview by focusing on a very different mix of these tastes. So here they are, the 5 core moral taste buds. First, you've got care, which is all about compassion and not wanting to see others suffer. Then there's fairness, our sense of justice and rights. Then things get interesting with loyalty, which is that instinct to stick with your tribe. Then authority, which is about respecting tradition and legitimate leaders. And finally, purity, which is about sanctity and avoiding things that feel disgusting or degrading. Remember, we all have these. The question is, how much do we value each one? All right, so let's plug this all back into politics. This is where we can really start to see the different moral wiring that creates these massive political divides. So when researchers crunch the numbers from massive studies, a really clear pattern just pops out. People who identify as liberals tend to build their moral world almost exclusively on two of these foundations. They put a huge emphasis on care and fairness. Their moral arguments are almost always about preventing harm and fighting for equality and justice. Now, conservatives, it's a totally different picture. They tend to use a much broader moral palette. They absolutely value care and fairness, but they give just as much weight to the other three: loyalty to their group, respect for authority and tradition, and the importance of purity. It creates a completely different, but just as consistent moral matrix. And hey, don't just take it from me, the social psychologists who developed the theory put it perfectly. The big takeaway here is not that one side is more moral. That's not it at all. It's that they are often speaking completely different moral languages, drawing from a different set of values to build their idea of a good society. Okay, so this is all really fascinating theory, but can we actually do anything with it? Can knowing this stuff change how we talk to each other? Well, the research says yes, absolutely, but it's kind of a double-edged sword. So on one side, you can use a group's prefer the moral language to entrench them, basically to fire them up and make them dig in even deeper on what they already believe. But the other side of the coin is where it gets really powerful. You can actually use the other side's moral language as a tool for persuasion. And there's this brilliant experiment that shows exactly how this plays out. Researchers wanted to persuade conservatives to support environmental causes. So first, they tried the standard liberal argument, all about care and preventing harm to the planet. The result? Pretty much nothing. But then they reframed the exact same policy using the Purity Foundation. They talked about keeping our forests and rivers pure, clean, and beautiful. And what happened? Conservative support for environmental protection went way, way up. So, what's the big lesson here for all of us trying to navigate this incredibly polarized world? Well, this whole framework gives us a powerful new lens for seeing the people we disagree with.
Now, let's be realistic. This isn't some magic bullet that's going to make everyone hold hands and sing together. Understanding why someone believes something doesn't mean you're suddenly going to agree with them on tax policy.
But, and this is a really big but, what it can do is provide a crucial shift in how we see each other. It suggests that the person on the other side of the aisle isn't necessarily evil or stupid or irrational. They may just be operating from a different but equally valid moral matrix. They're just playing a different moral tune. And that really leaves us with a final, big question to think about. Knowing that these different moral languages exist, are we willing to learn to speak them? Not to abandon our own values, but just to be understood and maybe, just maybe, find a way to have a real conversation. It's definitely something to chew on.